They told you the American Revolution was a war of muskets and declarations, powdered wigs and battlefield glory. But they never told you that it was also a war of whispers, shadows, and betrayal. Long before the first shot at Lexington and Concord, an invisible war had already begun. A war that would decide the fate of a nation before the world even knew it had begun. If you're the kind of person who wants to know what really happened, the secrets behind the stars and stripes, hit that like button and subscribe. Because the truth about America's founding is far more complex, far more thrilling, and far more dangerous than what they ever taught you in school. The American Revolution was not just a military conflict. It was an intelligence war. And at the center of that secret struggle was a man you already know, George Washington. But not the Washington from your history book, not the cherry tree, the wooden teeth, or the general crossing the Delaware. No, this Washington was something else entirely. A spy master, a strategist of silence, a general who believed that wars were won not only by courage and cannonballs, but by codes, deception, and secrecy. Washington learned the value of espionage the hard way. In the early days of the war, American forces were constantly outgunned, outnumbered, and outmaneuvered. The British Empire had one of the most powerful armies on earth. The Continental Army had enthusiasm. Washington needed an edge. And so, he built one. In the shadows, he began crafting what would become the Culper Ring, an intricate network of informants, couriers, and agents embedded deep within British-held New York. Their mission was simple: deliver information, but doing so meant risking everything. There were no protections, no Geneva Conventions. If you were caught as a spy, you were hanged, no trial, no mercy. And yet they came. Farmers, merchants, housewives, sailors, ordinary people who became extraordinary agents. One of them, known only as Agent 355, remains one of history's greatest mysteries. We don't know her real name, only that she was a woman deeply embedded in Loyalist society, and that her intelligence may have led to the exposure of Benedict Arnold's infamous treason. Some say she was caught and died aboard a British prison ship. Others say she vanished, her mission complete. But what is certain, her contribution changed the course of the war. And then there was the infamous betrayal of Benedict Arnold himself, a decorated American general who once stormed Fort Ticonderoga with unmatched bravery. Arnold's defection stunned the fledgling republic. But few understand the web of espionage that surrounded his treason. Arnold had grown resentful. He felt underappreciated, underpaid, and overlooked. So he reached out, not to a battlefield commander, but to Major John Andrew, the chief intelligence officer of the British Army. What followed was a series of secret letters, coded in invisible ink, passed through intermediaries, and finally leading to the fateful meeting between Andrew and Arnold near West Point. Arnold planned to surrender the fort, a key defensive position, to the British in exchange for money and rank. But the plot was foiled when Andrew was captured by American militiamen. Hidden in his boot were documents revealing the conspiracy. Andrew was executed, Arnold escaped, and Washington, for the first time, realized just how vulnerable his revolution truly was. But the Americans weren't just defending themselves. They were striking back, cleverly, quietly. One of Washington's most powerful tactics was disinformation. He understood that controlling what the enemy believed was just as important as controlling territory. He would plant fake plans, write false letters, even stage entire troop movements to deceive British intelligence. In one of the most brilliant operations, Washington had his agents feed exaggerated reports of Continental troop strength to known British spies. The British, believing they were vastly outnumbered, shifted their strategy, giving the Americans crucial time to regroup. The spy war extended beyond the battlefield. Benjamin Talmadge, the leader of the Culper Ring, oversaw a network that used advanced tradecraft for the era. They used coded letters, number ciphers, drop boxes, and invisible ink formulas made from onion juice and sympathetic chemicals. Even laundry lines became tools of war, with women hanging different colored petticoats and handkerchiefs to signal when it was safe to pass messages. And then there was James Armistead Lafayette, a black slave who became one of the most effective double agents in the Revolution. He infiltrated the British High Command under Lord Cornwallis, pretending to be a runaway slave seeking freedom. Instead, he passed back key intelligence to the Americans, helping secure victory at the Battle of Yorktown. After the war, the Marquis de Lafayette vouched for him and James was granted his freedom. His name is rarely mentioned in classrooms, but without him, America might have lost the war. British intelligence, meanwhile, had its own successes and failures. They relied heavily on loyalist networks, especially in cities like New York and Philadelphia. Many colonial elites, merchants, and clergy remained loyal to the crown, and they funneled information back to British command. But the problem was arrogance. The British underestimated the Americans. They assumed the rebels couldn't possibly develop a competent intelligence system. That mistake cost them dearly. One key turning point came with the Battle of Yorktown, the last major battle of the Revolution. In the weeks leading up to the siege, Washington executed a massive deception campaign. He made it appear as though he was preparing to attack New York, complete with fake campfires, false dispatches, and staged troop movements. The British fell for it. By the time they realized Washington had moved south toward Virginia, it was too late. Cornwallis was trapped. The French fleet blocked reinforcements, and the American Revolution ended not just with guns but with gale. And yet, when the war ended, these heroes vanished into silence. There were no medals for the Culper Ring, no parades for 355, no statues for James Armistead. Their contributions remained classified, unspoken, forgotten. But their legacy lived on, in the very DNA of American intelligence. The techniques developed in the Revolution would evolve into the methods used by the CIA, the NSA, and modern spycraft. Washington's belief in information warfare laid the foundation for America's covert power. His use of counterintelligence, deception, and psychological manipulation would influence generations of strategists. So the next time someone tells you the story of the Revolution, about Paul Revere's Ride or the Declaration of Independence, remember what they left out. Remember the war behind the war, the invisible ink, the coded letters, the shadowy figures who moved silently through history, shaping the outcome of a nation before a single vote was cast. They were the first American intelligence officers. They were the ghosts of the Revolution. And now you know their story. If you're still with us, you're clearly someone who values truth, depth, and the hidden stories that define our world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the next video might just change everything you thought you knew about America.